to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to be joining you this week again. Owen Siebring will be joining us for the whole show. Owen, as you know, has been on throughout this whole 6-year run on statewide television. Owen, of course, with Iowa's News Now in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Northeast Iowa market, Eastern Iowa market, and Owen covers sports. Owen, as always, we've got so much to talk about. It's great to have you joining us. We're going to be talking Hawkeye men's basketball as first segment, Hawkeye women's basketball the second segment, and then, of course, you've got a personal announcement you want to make that you made on social media earlier this week as we record this on Wednesday afternoon, March 18th. But I want you to follow up on that and give us some details on a personal note for you. But Owen, my friend, as always, thanks for joining us. And how's everything going with you?
Oh, good. Yeah, happy to be here again, Dave.
Outstanding. Well, let's get right to it. Hawkeye men, 21-12, Owen, a 9 seed playing the 8-9 game against Clemson. That'll be on Friday, so by the time this show airs, that game will have been played already. It'll be on Friday evening, late afternoon, early evening. And, oh, by the way, Owen, if they win that game, seemingly or most probably, unless they lose to a 16 seed, number 1 Florida, last year's national championship, will be waiting in the wings to face the Hawkeyes on Sunday. So Hawks are in Tampa, playing a Florida team, so not quite a home game. But, Owen, it's March Madness, so we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week. I mean, everything as a sports schedule maker, I almost like dislike the way that this year's tournament kind of turned out, just because we've got 3 men's teams and 1 women's team all playing on Friday. So it's like we got the Hawkeye men, Iowa State men and women, and the UNI men to all try to cover those games. I'm like, we couldn't spread these out a little bit more, have at least 1 game on Thursday to cover. So it is a incredibly busy time of year, but definitely following the Hawkeyes first and foremost. I'll get a chance to visit with the Hawkeye women on Saturday, but the men, yeah, it's going to be something to look forward to, having them back in the tournament, playing Clemson team that is coached by Brad Brownell that has done great things there. I'd forgotten this until recently that Clemson was in the Elite 8 just 2 years ago. That's a good Clemson program coached by an awesome coach there. And so, I mean, the matchup, I think personally favors Iowa, I think a little bit, especially with some injuries that have happened over there at Clemson. But I think if you're a Hawkeye fan, you just got to be happy that this team is back into the tournament again and at least is relevant and a team that people are talking about again.
Now, Owen, you're an AP voter and in your first year here wrapping it up. So I want you to talk a little bit, as you just did, about Clemson. Oh, by the way, if the Hawks do get past Clemson and Florida, could be a matchup with Nebraska upcoming or Vanderbilt, Illinois.
Or Penn.
Pardon me?
Or Penn.
Well, you just stole my thunder. I was going to say if Penn and Fran McCaffrey can get past Illinois, one of those two could be waiting. And congrats to former Hawkeye coach in his first year back at his alma mater at Penn. Fran McCaffrey and his crew won in overtime, Owen, their conference, the Ivy League title. So they're facing Illinois. So another Brad Underwood, Fran McCaffrey matchup. Owen, it's interesting, though, as we mentioned, and I hate to keep using the word interesting, but that's the best one it could be fascinating, could be really head-scratching. If they get past Clemson, Florida, then there could be Nebraska or Vanderbilt or Penn or Illinois. So a lot of people initially were saying, oh, well, gee, you take a look at Iowa. They got the easiest bracket. They're playing the 4 seed in the South, or 4 seed overall, fourth number one seed in Florida. I don't see it that way. Again, you're an AP voter. You saw the national teams this year, and you followed them closely and voted each week. Duke's got a lot of folks injured. A lot of their missing a couple of frontline stars for the rest of the season. One that's battling in and out of injury. They've got injury problems. Arizona has been relatively steady, but I'll tell you what, Owen, if you take a look at all the number 1 seeds, this Florida team has really starting to hit their stride. Yeah, I know they stumbled in the SEC tournament, but you take a look at this as a whole, I'm not so sure this was such an easy draw that the first naysayers were saying on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Florida is outstanding. Again, yeah, as you mentioned, they started the year a little bit slow, coming off of that team that won a national title last year, but they had some guys who went to the NBA, so naturally it was going to take a little bit of time for that team to find its groove, and they really have found their groove. It's, of course, so incredibly rare and hard to repeat as national champions in college basketball, although we did just see it a couple years ago with UConn, and before then, the last team to do it was, of course, Florida, who did it, I suppose that's been about 16, 17 years, something like that, with Joakim Noah and Al Horford and all those guys. But, yeah, that's going to be a team that is going to be real tough if Iowa wins their first-round game to get through Florida. Anything is possible. You know, at this point in the year, there's every single NCAA tournament, there's that team that has that one guy who really goes off, makes a name for himself, and boosts his draft stock by his performance in the NCAA tournament. It's not impossible that Iowa could have that kind of a performance out of Bennett Sturts. That, you know, in the first and second round, if he scores 35 to 40 points each game, then Iowa might have a chance. But outside of that, it's just hard to see much of a deep run out of Iowa with them stumbling a little bit late in the year. They just don't look like they're at their best right now. So, I mean, getting by Clemson is going to be hard enough, and I think that Hawkeye fans, again, should be satisfied with a first-round win in the tournament. They haven't won a game at the NCAA since they beat Grand Canyon in, what was that, 2018, 2019, something like that. So it would be nice, I think, for Hawkeye fans to at least finish in the top 32, if you will.
Well, Owen, I have them on every year, Jeff Settles and Kent McCausland, and I just had them on here recently. They were part of that last Hawkeye team that went to at least a Sweet 16 and or beyond. They lost in the Sweet 16 to the eventual national champion that year in 1999. So, yeah, it's been over a quarter of a century. So hopefully Cooper Koch can take from his dad, J.R. Koch, who was a part of that team, and he was on this show last year talking about that too. So, yeah, your footnote in history is very well stated, Owen.
When you talk about those Nebraska results and the Michigan game, those are literally some of the best teams in the country. Michigan's a team that a lot of people are picking to win a national title. So the thing with Iowa is just you don't ever know what team is going to show up. Is it going to be the team that pushed Michigan to the last seconds, or is it going to be the team that lost to Penn State? Like, you just don't know. That's why I'm so perplexed about even what to pick in the first round of the tournament, because I'm like, I just don't know what Iowa team is going to be out there. But yeah, the opportunities are there, and Ben McCollum has got, like, that's the thing that I think will play into the Hawkeyes' favor, is they have a guy in Ben McCollum who, even though it's his first year at the Power 5 level, he has coached so many postseason games at Drake and at Northwest Missouri State that he's a guy who's going to have his team ready and is not going to be nervous about a game like this. Yeah, he knows that it's the first time he's making the tournament with Iowa, with the team he rooted for growing up. But all the same, he knows also that he can get his team into a position to win a game or two in the postseason if he needs to.
Well stated by you, talking about Ben McCollum. Let's take this a little farther, if you will. You've been following him all year, and again, all of college basketball. And thank you for mentioning when we talked about Michigan, that's the fourth number one seed. So I talked about Arizona, Duke, Florida, and Michigan, you know, and they had Florida ranked as the fourth number one seed. Michigan's got an injury. They've got a guard out now for the rest of the year. So it's not as stacking up as everybody. They're still number one seeds, don't get me wrong. But I'm still saying there's a lot out there that, you know, last year it went chalk, and we had national championship game against two number one teams, the aforementioned Florida and Houston. So, and I think Houston's a pretty strong number two team. And oh, by the way, all the teams we mentioned in the South region, Houston is in that region as well with the Hawkeyes as the number two seed. So all the potential matchups we've talked about, let's not forget Houston is in the wings as well, waiting potentially. So, Owen, but if you would, as we close out this first segment talking Hawkeye men's basketball, please discuss with us a little bit or give us your insights on what you thought observing Ben McCollum and the Hawkeyes in his first year there in Iowa City.
Well, I think that the future is bright for Ben McCollum. I think that there's some work to do on the recruiting trail. I think there's some good guys coming in, and I think that this team's going to hit the transfer portal hard with, I mean, they're not losing a lot of guys, but they are losing Bennett Sturts, who has been the heart and soul of this team, top to bottom, for the entire year. I mean, I don't know what this team would be if it had not for Bennett Sturts this year. I don't know if they would have a winning record even. And so I think that is an enormous spot to fill. And I hope that they can find somebody who can at least step up. We've seen it a little bit late in the year with, like, Cooper Koch, who's had some nice scoring outputs. And so maybe he's going to be the guy next year that they're looking to be their leading scorer a lot of nights. But that's kind of what they need right now. Yes, they are young, and they do have some chance to develop some guys coming forward, but they are going to be just losing so much with Bennett Sturts leaving. And so the program is certainly in a good place right now, but there is still a lot of work to be done on the recruiting trail, both out of the high school level and out of the transfer portal. This team knows that if they want to continue to build momentum and continue bringing fans in the building and continue to try to keep pace with the attendance numbers of the Hawkeye women's team, then they're going to have to keep performing out there and at least keep, you don't have to get to the Elite Eight or the Final Four in the next few years, but at least keep being a tournament team, maybe get a Sweet 16 in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and I think that this fan base will be happy with what you're doing. Hopefully some recruits from the transfer or the high school level will see what Ben McCollum has done with this team that is outside of Bennett Sturts, who some say may even be a lottery pick in the NBA, outside of him, this is still pretty much a mid-major roster. And so I think people will see, like, boy, this guy helped take a team to the tournament, even without having a bunch of star players out there, or a bunch of seven-figure players, or some seven-footers, that he's been able to still to do the most with a I mean, again, you don't want to say not talented, but it's a roster of guys who maybe a lot of people could not bring that type of team to the tournament, I'll say. So I think that he's at least building his own resume with what he's done with the Hawkeyes this year.
Yeah, and undersized. Let's just say what it is. I mean, it's happened a few times. You know, and your top guys are 6'8", 6'9", in Cam Manyow and Tavion Banks. Yeah, he's had Jurok come in a few times off the bench, the true freshman at 6'11". But yeah, for the most part, they want to look at some size. That's for certain. Some height. That's for certain. Yeah. Owen, let's talk some Hawkeye women's basketball. When we come back, we'll run to a quick break. He is Owen Siebring, and he is the sports guy at Eastern Iowa's News Now, Fox 28, CBS 2, a Sinclair station that carries this Hawkeye program, one of the 6 stations. And Owen, it's always great to see you, and thanks for joining us for the whole show. We'll come back with more Hawkeye. He's Owen Siebring. I'm Dave O'Hara in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by BettorEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BettorEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, BettorEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at bettoredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. BettorEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Owen Siebring joining us on screen. Owen, of course, with Iowa's News Now in Eastern Iowa, covering the Iowa Hawkeyes, well, all teams, high school, colleges, pros. He's got them all covered. Owen, of course, part of Fox 28 and CBS 2 as well. Owen, let's talk Hawkeye women's basketball. 26-6 overall, a number 2 seed, a number 6 or 7 overall, but, you know, they got home games for the next 2 games. I'm going to get into some local history from just a couple of years ago, could resurface this year. But let's talk initially about Caitlin Clark and the job she did for the former Hawkeye great in Indiana Fever currently, but for the United States women's national team for FIBA. And yeah, they already had qualified, but it was nice to see tune-up games, and all she did was lead them in scoring and assists, coming off the bench, starting, whatever they needed to do. Good to see her knock the rust off. But also in that last tune-up game for the Americans, played against Spain and Megan Gustafson. You've talked to Megan recently and all the stuff she's got in her life, getting married, or had just written a book, you know, playing in WNBA, traveling overseas to play in the off season where Caitlin stays, you know, in America. So Megan Gustafson had a nice little game, 15 points. And it was just fun to see 2 former Hawkeye greats getting after it in the quote unquote off season.
Yeah, not even just getting after it or not even just competing in this tournament, but both Caitlin and Megan were named to the all-tournament team for the FIBA qualifier. So
yeah, and Caitlin was the MVP, right?
That's right. Caitlin was the MVP. So you had 2 former Hawkeyes who were named 2 of the best 5 players of this entire tournament. Really outstanding, because Megan, I mean, I didn't expect that from Megan, honestly, just because she'd done well and she's been very good for Spain in all of her performances there. But all-tournament team, man, that was just outstanding for her.
Yeah, really cool stuff. And again, I know you've spoken to her recently or in a recent past and did a nice piece on her. So good on her and good on Caitlin. And we're excited, of course, as always, with those 2 in the future. So 26-6 overall, Hawkeye women, as I mentioned, number 2 seed overall, going to be 2 home games. Now I want to get into this history that I talked about earlier when I teed it up. Katie Abrahamson, former Cedar Rapids Wash basketball playing great, had a decorated college career. She was here a couple of years ago when Georgia was in this region of this bracket against the Hawkeyes. So if they win their first round game, depending if it's going to be Virginia or NC State, they have a play-in game tomorrow night at Carver Hawkeye Arena on Thursday as we record this Wednesday afternoon on March 18th. But then Georgia will play that first game on Saturday, leading into the Hawkeye women tipping off at 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon from Carver Hawkeye. Sold out, by the way, all sessions. And then hopefully the Hawkeye women will be able to play on Monday, that second game, and presumably against Georgia. And they faced them a couple years ago. So Katie Abrahamson Henderson, now married, but coming back into Iowa, and Owen, not an easy region again, and it's not supposed to be. But the main question I have for you is, let's talk Hawkeye women first, but by follow-up, I'm looking forward to having a further discussion with you. But Give us your takeaways and thoughts on the Hawkeye women's team for the year and going into this tournament.
Boy, overall for the year, I mean, again, as we talked about with the men's team, got to be happy with what they did this year, and with Ben McCollum in year one, you have to be happy with where Jen Jensen is at right now with this program in just her second year as a head coach. Yes, it is a familiar system with a lot of familiar faces, and the transition was a smooth one. It's not like you're totally rebuilding or revamping the program, but just to think that, when you look at Lisa Bluder's first couple of years with this team, I mean, again, she didn't make the Sweet 16 until what was it, 2015 that I think Lisa Bluder made her first Sweet 16. And I mean, I'm not saying Iowa was definitely going to make it there, but they sure have a good chance to make it there this year in just the second season with Jan Jensen as the head coach for this team to have a 26-6 record, for all the ranked wins they have this year, to do what they've done and to finish second in the Big Ten. You just have to be so happy with what they've accomplished, not just with this team, but with a young team that only at this point basically has two seniors playing. You only have Kylie Fierbach and Hannah Stolke are going to be, at this point, your only losses outside of the team they have on the court right now. And so you have to be really excited for what's to come in the future. I never thought, 5 years ago, I never thought that anybody would touch Megan Gustafson's program records that she broke. And of course, Caitlin Clark did all of that. I still didn't, obviously nobody's going to touch Caitlin, but Megan's records again might be in jeopardy with Ava Hayden and what she's turned into. Like, all of a sudden, she's a second team or honorable mention All-American by a lot of outlets. And so who knows what she's capable of in the next couple of years.
To your point about Ava Hayden, I failed to mention, or wanted to remember to mention and reiterate, congratulations to Bennett Sturtz on the men's side, being an AP All-American, honorable mention. And then, as you mentioned, Ava Hayden, USBWA, United States Basketball Writers Association, as an honorable mention All-American. And other lists, she's listed as second in honorable mention. So both those players, Bennett Sturtz and Ava Hayden, will be added to many more All-American lists as the postseason awards start rolling in. So can you take a look at what Ava Hayden is doing, what Taylor Stremlow is doing, either from off the bench, in the starting lineup. You take a look at Journey Houston, who in the beginning of the season, people were like, I don't know if she's probably going to redshirt this. She has been a big contributor in that four spot. And you take a look at Addie Deal coming into her own as an all-everything freshman. Had bits and pieces, but is really starting to round into nice playing shape. So you take a look at some of the younger players and you go, okay. And I think you had mentioned the other day on social media, and I think it bears repeating or digging a little deeper into. The torch has definitely been passed. We'll talk about the torch being passed again, as this team is now a post-oriented team as opposed to the Caitlin Clark era. Last year they had Lucy Olson, kind of that bridge year from Caitlin into a new regime, a new era, with Jan Jensen taking over for Lisa Blue.
The front court for this team is just going to be terrifying in the future for Big Ten opponents, because they're just going to be so good, so tough, such a good rebounding team. And then you're going to have still Chit Chat Wright for 2 more years, and Taylor Stremlow for 2 more years, and Addie Deal for 3 more years. Like, there's just so many weapons this team has that it's not like I'm going to right now pencil them in to be a Final Four team for the next couple seasons, but I wouldn't say that that's outside of the realm of possibility, that this team could be a team to compete at least for the Final Four, compete for 2 and 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament for the next couple seasons. And yeah, they're in a great place to do that right now, as long as Jane is steering the ship.
Well, you mentioned Chit Chat Right, and I was going to get to her, and I'm glad you mentioned it, so we'll lead right into that. She's been another very, very pleasant surprise, at least for me. I was expecting a little bit, but not this much. Good on her. And then you mentioned with McKenna Velichko coming in. Oh, and coming off her, she had a very horrendous knee injury last year, and she started her season later, senior year of high school. And all she's done is made every All-Star team, every All-American team. She has really come back from that and battled back. So, you don't like to see an injury so young and such a young player, even before she gets to college, but she has seemed to put that behind her and just been blazing a trail. So, to your point, I'm very excited to see what the future brings. And I hadn't even gotten to her in Chit Chat yet. So thanks for doing that, because those two are just going to be pieces that you can plug and play. And yeah, I've heard the same thing. I think McKenna Velichko, if she's not starting, she's going to be getting significant minutes the first second she steps on court at Iowa. That's for certain. But Owen, let's you and I take a break here. And we come back, we'll close out the show in the third and final segment. Owen's kind enough to join us for the whole show. Owen's going to give us an update on a little personal news of his, and looking forward to that. He is Owen Siebring, and he is the sports anchor at Fox 28 CBS2, Iowa's News Now, covering essentially all of Eastern Iowa. Sinclair station that carries, one of the 6 stations that carries this Hawkeye TV show on a weekly basis. Owen has joined us throughout this 6-year run on TV. So for Owen Siebring, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more to close out the show on Hawkeye in just a few moments.
For higher yields and greater consistency across every acre, check out Merschman Seed's Power Core Enlist Corn. Here's Lynn Williams, our General Sales Manager.
Merschman Seed's Power Core Enlist corn growers are talking about high yield potential and consistency across their acres. And that comes from brand new high yield germplasm combined with the Power Core herbicide trait package engineered to boost performance and put more bushels in your hopper at harvest.
Contact your local Merschman Seeds dealer today and ask them about Power Core Enlist Corn from Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Owen Siebring joining us to close out the show. Owen has been kind enough to join us throughout this entire show and for the last 6 years, run on this statewide television program, Hawkeye. Owen, of course, is sports anchor at Fox 28, CBS 2, Eastern Iowa, Iowa's News Now. Owen is part of that fantastic Eye on the Hawks podcast. Go to Iowa News Now, their YouTube page, and check out all the episodes. Great coverage in depth on the Iowa Hawkeyes. So, Owen, you've got some personal news for us. I saw on social media earlier this week. We record this on Wednesday afternoon, March 18th. Fire away when ready, please.
Yeah, we're recording on Wednesday, but I think you said that it's going to be airing on Friday. So to try to keep it up to date, then today, as in Friday, is going to be my last day at the station. So just some changes around the company and some contract things that got brought up, and so I had the opportunity to either stay for another 2 years or had to leave, and so I chose the opportunity to leave and go pursue something else. And so I would have loved to have stayed in the company, but just with some of my personal life issues, I don't even want to say issues, obviously. Personal life matters when it comes to, like, I've got a serious girlfriend who lives in Western Michigan. And so, we already had kind of been talking about me relocating over there. And so this just kind of sped up that process a little bit. So I'll be heading over to Michigan and don't really know what's next. I really do love working in television, and so I'd love to find something else in TV out there to do, but there hasn't been that opportunity to come open quite yet. So I'm hoping that there's something that comes up eventually. I'm open to any opportunity that comes up. I feel like I was built for sports coverage and TV coverage in a way. I've just felt very at home in this industry, and so I'm hoping I'm able to find something else out there that lets me continue this job that I love.
So, Owen, give us some of your best, talk to us, discuss with us some of your biggest memories in your 4 years here in Eastern Iowa. You obviously worked in other markets before you got here, and so I'm anxious. I got to believe one of those memories is going to be the CC era with Caitlin Clark. We talked about her earlier in the show, or even Megan Gustafson, but I'm just very curious to what some of your biggest takeaways are going to be specifically in the last 4 years here in Eastern Iowa.
Yeah, hard not to have Caitlin Clark at the top of that list. I'm a native Iowan. I grew up here, high school, college, and everything in Iowa. And so as a native Iowan, you just never expect somebody from the state of Iowa to be the biggest story in the country and maybe the world of sports overall. And so having a literal front row seat to that was just an incredible experience, getting to see that up front and see my home state on a national stage and spotlight was really incredible and so much fun. And just getting to be a part of that is something that will, in a lot of ways, define my career. I mean, I just don't know if I'm ever going to reach a point where I'm covering so closely the biggest story in America every single day and every single week. I mean, and if that's the pinnacle of my career, I'm okay with that. It was a great time having those 2 Final Four runs. Was so much fun with a lot of great colleagues that I got to travel with, and just so much fun overall. But I also love some other Hawkeye stories, covering that 2023 Hawkeye football team that won 10 games and was the worst offense in America. Like, just every week you're just like scratching your head. How is this team winning games just with a punter and a defense? I just don't understand. Like that season was a fun one. Getting to cover college sports, especially at the major level, like in the Big Ten, is such a cool opportunity that I don't take for granted either. Getting to be in Kinnick Stadium on every home game on Saturday, and going to Jack Trice for games, and going to Michigan State and Minnesota and Wisconsin and Nebraska and all these legendary stadiums. Getting to cover games there really is the experience of a lifetime that I won't forget either. And so the college games are great, but I really do love high school sports. Honestly, probably my highlights of the year were covering high school football on Friday nights. Doing our show Eastern Iowa OT every Friday night was so much fun for me. Getting a chance to go out, have our shooters out there covering 10 to 12 to 14 games every Friday night, bringing a really quality half-hour show was one of my highlights of the year. It was stressful and it's hard and it's tense and anxious, but at the same time, I really did love every minute of it. And so I'm really going to miss Friday nights around Iowa, especially. Those are some of my fondest moments, times that I loved getting a chance to follow these football teams all throughout their seasons, know their stories, know their players and coaches, and follow them all the way on their runs to the Unidome. And so as much as I will miss the Hawkeyes and covering college sports, I'll equally miss covering high school sports and the Friday nights for football and the soccer matches and the tennis matches and the wrestling meets and everything in between. It's all been a pleasure.
You truly have been a man for all seasons. You've been one of the best, and I can't thank you enough for your contributions to this show over the last 6 years. You've been a blast on the air and off the air to talk to and talk with and to work with. So I can't wish you nothing but the best, and you'll get the best, Owen. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Dave. I appreciate that.
Truly my pleasure. For Owen Siebring, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye, and thanks also to my production partners at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com, Greg Kajewski and James Siles. So for Hawkeye, that's all from us. Thanks to all of you.